Good evening and welcome to the regular council meeting of Thursday, March 24th, 2022. Just FYI, we've got a regular council meeting and then there will be a public hearing. And after that second part, there's council announcements. So with that, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Harkey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Ellis.
Here.
Councilmember Orlando.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation tonight is brought forth by Rabbi Herschel Brody Aberson from Temple Beth Shalom of the East Valley, and our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Stewart. Rabbi.
Mayor, managers, council members, thank you for having me. It is Jewish tradition to offer a bit of learning before a blessing. And in reflecting on the idea of giving an invocation of blessing to others, I was understandably drawn to the priestly blessing that's discussed in Torah, or the first 5 books of the Bible, and the obligation of the high priests to give this blessing daily to the people, regardless of what was going on, to ensure that all the people were part of that community together. But more so that it was their leadership that required them to make these connections to each and every member of the community. And so I offer this as a blessing. May each of you never forget the obligation you have to your city, to your country, to all that are around you. May you be a blessing to those that you serve. May your judgment be tempered with compassion. May your strength be tempered with mercy. And may at all times you be a source of joy and hope and connection for yourselves and all that you see.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Councilmember Stewart. Council, on one of the items, item number 21, I have quite a few speaker cards that have been come in. I would like to remove that item from consent and put it on action so that we can cover all the other items with a single vote. And people choose to stay, they're welcome, but also that then we will cover this particular one. So with that, next on our agenda is the consent agenda, sans item number 21. A motion would be in order, unless there's discussion necessary or desired.
Mayor. Mayor.
Council member.
I'm sorry. I move to approve the consent agenda of the city council meeting dated Monday, March 24th. Items 1 through 51, obviously 21 being action.
I second that, Mayor.
All right, council, we have a motion or a second. Is there any further discussion or items needing to be removed?
Just a quick, Mayor.
Council member.
On the U of A. Ooh, I almost blew it, didn't I? Sorry about that, U of A guys out there. Let's put it this way. I had a son that went to ASU, another son went to U of A, and my daughter went to NAU, so I have them all covered, okay? So forgive me. I just want to say thank you very much for what we're trying to do with the U of A and the organization out there. There's been a lot of discussion about the amount of dollars going towards this program, economic development type of dollars. I had some good conversation today with our staff. And I would hope that we could, after the next 4 or 5 months, once we get some definitive answers on what the tenant improvements are going to be and some of the other items, that you get back to this council and give us a briefing on that. So I think we owe that to not only the council, but also the residents in our community that have questions on that. So city manager, I think, we had a good conversation today, you and Mike and myself. So hopefully we get, as soon as possible, get those data back to us to be able to digest it. Certainly, we could do that. And again, we're looking forward to having you expand in our community and look forward to some good stuff. Thank you.
Mayor.
Council member.
Yeah, I got a conflict of interest. My daughter actually goes to U of A. And so just for the sake of it, I just want to remove myself from that item.
City Attorney, does that constitute a conflict? I'm sorry, City Attorney?
If I may, Mayor, Councilmember Harris, it could be a conflict of interest, but it definitely falls within the remote interest, which removes it from a conflict of interest because there are more than 10 students attending U of A, and your daughter is one of thousands.
All right. All right, council, please vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. All right. So every item other than item number 21 on the consent agenda is now passed. We'll take up item 21 and vote on it as a separate item. Way that we're going to do this is that we will have staff come and make a presentation. And then I'm going to invite the zoning attorney. I will then work through these cards and give the zoning attorney an opportunity to speak at the end. So I will try to equilibrate the amount of time back and forth, and we'll see how that goes. So, staff.
There we go. Okay, good evening, council. Thank you. My name is Christine Gay. I'm with the Planning Division. And this is agenda item 21, and it is for Carrie's Car Care, which is a request for a preliminary development plan. Different from other applications where we discuss land use, a preliminary development plan focuses only on site and building design. A little bit.
Say that again just for emphasis.
Tonight's request is only in regards to site and building design.
So not for use, just site and building design.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Here on the screen, you're seeing the subject site. It's approximately 1 acre. To the north of the site is an existing gas station. To the east are garden-style offices, and to the south and west are single-family homes. A little bit of background on the site. Here on the left side of your screen, you see the layout that was approved for the site as part of a previous PDP approved by council. At that time, it was zoned for commercial uses, which permits the use of an auto repair garage that the applicant is proposing. So again, that use is permitted by right. With the applicant, as you'll see in a couple slides, they're proposing a layout that will look different and building elevations that will look slightly different. So that's why we're here tonight. Here is the proposed site layout. You can see the site is still accessed in a similar fashion, actually the same exact fashion from Cooper Road. That curb cut is there today, and it will connect to the gas station to the north. The building is situated slightly further to the north from the previous approval. It's substantially smaller in size, and the main difference being, of course, is that this layout accommodates vehicles to enter the building from the north. You can see within the building plan, there are 8 proposed bays for vehicles to be worked on. These are the proposed elevations. They are using the same materials proposed in the previous PDP to have coordination with the gas station to the north because it's all part of one center. So you're seeing stone veneer reaching up to a deep eave with some bracket accents, a gable roofline and a flat parapet roofline, and trellis accents and plantings along the facade. Here are a few slides to compare the two. On the left, of course, is the previous PDP, and on the right is the proposed. This exhibit shows the setbacks. The big one today is on the right, you see the 88-foot setback to the south that is proposed versus the 49-foot setback of the previous PDP. This was intentional by the applicant, of course, to try to design the site to best accommodate the permitted use and give consideration to the neighbors to the south. The setback has also increased to the east towards the offices and also to the north mainly to allow auto access into the northern part of the building. The setback that has reduced is the building has gotten closer to the road to the west, mainly because not as many parking spaces are proposed. Looking at the building size, previously the building was 14,000 square feet. The car repair center today is proposed at 8,400 square feet. And on this side, I also go over the building height. The existing building height is 23 feet 10 inches where it's closest to the neighbors to the south, and it approaches 32 feet 8 inches at the top of that previously approved gable roof line. Today, the proposal is similar but slightly shorter, 20 feet 4 inches near the neighbors, and it will reach 30 feet at the top of the gable. A comparative slide of the elevations. The main difference, you're seeing a smaller building and fewer windows because we don't have inline shops proposed. You're seeing storage areas on this facade. And of course, on the north elevation, you're seeing that overhead door for the vehicles to enter. A little background on the public involvement process. The applicant held 2 neighborhood meetings. At the first neighborhood meeting, they heard opposition from the residents and concern mainly relating to the noise, and then later regarding the height and landscaping that is proposed. The applicant performed a sound study and then hosted a second neighborhood meeting where they went over the findings. After that second meeting, the sound concerns still remained, so of course today we have a number of residents here to speak. Beyond the sound study, a little bit more information or sound opposition. Mr. Russo, a nearby resident, created a petition where he had 110 neighbors sign with similar feelings of opposition. Their main concern, again, is the noise of the large or loud pneumatic tools and additional vehicles, the noise that those would generate. And they requested or shared a desire for a type of a buffer building, a land use buffer. Here the applicant's proposing in their site design a big 88-foot setback between them and the neighborhood. And what the resident shared is that they liked having a building on the site that was, you know, what they perceive as containing more passive uses. They liked having that designed in place as a buffer. So a summary of the sound study, and I can let the applicant go over the details, is simply that it conveyed there would not be an impact, that the sound levels were essentially the same. That sound study made recommendations to further decrease the noise, and as the applicant can go over, they've agreed to be stipulated to meet some of those requirements or suggestions, or they've agreed to, they've prepared a letter of commitment to otherwise meet the suggestions. Staff has recommended approval of the request. Planning Commission has also recommended approval of the request, and to support that, we do have a number of conditions. I've abbreviated the particular conditions on the screen in front of you. You will see that there's a number of stipulations regarding enhanced landscaping towards the south, the east, and the west property lines for reasons of screening, and then also to aid in that perceived separation and potentially noise reducing as well. We further stipulate, just to confirm items in the site exhibit, for example, stipulation number 9, the site's limited to 1 overhead automotive door, just one, and it's located on the north of the proposed building. The air compressor, stipulation 6, goes over particular insulation and construction methods for the housing around the air compressor to further reduce noise. And the remaining are primarily regarding enhanced size of trees at the planting, so they'll be 36 or 48-inch box, and additionally also they will be at least 12 feet in height to ensure we get a good size. Also along the southern property line, beyond being 36 or 48-inch box and 12 feet in height, they will also need to be of similar canopy, the existing canopy, if they need to replace one of those trees. So we really tried to work on those stipulations to ensure there was a solid buffer there. So again, we did find it consistent with the general plan, which goes over having a transition between commercial development and residential development, and for having high quality design. And with that, I'll take any questions or step aside for the applicant.
Council, any questions at this point? Councilmember Orlando.
Hi, good job. Thank you for summarizing. Can you go back to that picture where you're showing the 30-foot height of the building? Tell me what that is there.
So are you,
Yeah, what's 30? Is that 30 feet right there?
through the mayor, Councilman Orlando? Yes, the 30 feet will be at the top of the parapet there.
So, question, because one of the comments was this is a 30-foot building, and even whether it's front or back, there's still 30 feet there. Why is that so large? Couldn't it have been shorter or less prominent?
Through the mayor, Councilman, they could potentially design the building lower. They proposed this design because it is very similar to the existing PDP that was approved. That design has been applied to the Circle K, just to remain consistent.
Okay. And maybe you don't know the answer to this, I could ask the applicant. The air compressor, if the noise study indicated something about using electric, would they still need an air compressor if they're going to use electric?
I'll defer for the applicant to
I figured
answer
that.
that for you.
All right. And you said the screening, can you go back to the one with all the landscaping?
Does this work?
Okay, so orient to me, this is on the proposed PDP. Cooper, obviously the residents to the west, they have a lush landscaping already there. Is that what I'm looking at?
Along Cooper Road, there is existing landscaping in place now. When they go in and construct their building, they will enhance it to bring it up to current day standards. And then there's a further, you know what, I actually have a slide on this. 1 second. There we go. So each of these comments pertains to the respective property line. So any new trees that are required along that Cooper Road will be at least a 36-inch box and 12 feet tall. So that will be an enhancement along that road.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I got some other question, but I'll hold off. Thanks.
Council, additional questions? Councilmember, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to be clear here, we had an original PDP that's been approved for them, and they could build that without any further approval from the mayor or council. Is that true?
Through the mayor, councilman, yes. On your screen, or as you've seen earlier, there is an existing PDP which appeared to show like inline shops. And here on your screen, you see elevations of the previous PDP that has been approved that they could build today.
All right, so if it was rejected today, they could go back and build what was originally designed.
Yes.
And there is no south access for vehicles or big trucks for people to, for deliveries or garbage trucks to the south on the new plan.
Through the mayor, councilman, on the new plan, there is not. On the previous plan, there also was not.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you so much for your presentation. To continue with what Councilmember Orlando was asking, I know we talked about the height of the building, but this is not really what's in questions right now. It's the height of the building. If my understanding is clear, there's no complaint about that. But the complaint is about the noise. And so far, you have demonstrated that the applicant has done everything in their power to make sure that the noise impact is lessened. Or can we totally take out noise?
Through the mayor, councilman, the applicant has made the applicant has made a number of changes to further decrease the noise of the permitted use through site design and building design changes.
I have seen those efforts. Thank you.
Mayor.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, and I do concur that there were some people that were concerned about noise, but I think the noise level is about the same level that I'm talking to everyone in this room right now. It's about the same noise level that will be produced from a shop that's enclosed.
about right?
Through the mayor, I'll let the sound analyst, I believe, is here with the applicant, and I'd rather defer to them for
Okay.
details. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Why don't we bring up the applicant?
I won't give a full presentation, but a couple of slides. For the record, Adam Baugh, 2525 East, Arizona Biltmore Circle. I think when you evaluate these types of questions with properties that are already zoned for the type of use, when you're doing a PDP change, sometimes you ask yourself, is this a departure from what was previously shown regarding building, site, layout, architecture, design, setbacks? And as a new use comes in what ways can you design it to be more compatible given that there may be some changes? And so what I want to do is just show a couple of things real quick that I thought were helpful for the discussion.
Mayor, could they possibly answer my question before he goes into a presentation just about the sound thing?
I think he's going to have a sound person come up a little bit later. So
All right.
hang on.
And I do have a sound slide in here that will answer your question for you. Let me show you. I start with this. A large building, about 14,000 square feet. So the first question you might ask yourself is this equal in size or smaller? And we are comparatively much smaller, about 8,000 square foot is our building proposed. The next question you might ask yourself is the architecture of similar nature, quality, design, and materials? And as you can see, the upper elevation 2016 compared to the elevation today are very similar, particularly to Councilmember Orlando's comment regarding the architecture, heights, and parapets. 2016, you could have up to a 32-foot tall parapet. We are now at a 30-foot tall parapet. And the roof elevation previously was around 21 to 23. Our roof elevation is now at 20. So in many ways, we're actually consistent or even just a little bit less. But when I look at these two together, they look and feel substantially similar. Another thing that I start to look at, I think most importantly, is noise. There's a couple ways to address the noise. Many of that is in the site design and implementation. I thought Christine did a fantastic job describing some of the ways that we've addressed the noise, but I thought it's helpful to look at this exhibit here. A setback that's between 89 feet to 109 feet on the south side, deliberately pushed away from the neighbors at its greatest extent possible. The second way we've designed this to be compatible is by putting the garage door on the northern end of the building rather than on the southern end or on the westerly end. That's intentional because it faces the commercial area instead of the residential area. A third way is we have one singular garage door. When you look at a lot of your automotive repair facilities, there's multiple doors and multiple cars pull in and multiple doors open. You have one singular one and all those operations are contained on the inside. Those are some three key considerations that we did to try to optimize the site. When we went back and looked at the noise study, noise is always reflective and has to be considered with its ambient environment. And I don't know an expert level of noise, but we did hire a professional who did that analysis. And when they compare the noise to its present conditions relative to its proximity to residential boundaries, you'll see in this third bullet point there that the increase in noise level is so insignificant that it's hard to actually measure it in a manner that has a demonstrative increase. In many ways, it is very similar to what you'd expect to see at an arterial to arterial, major arterial intersection next to a gas station, among other things. So the truth of the matter is, yes, there will be some degree of noise, but in a degree that's largely insignificant relative to the surrounding conditions in that area. That being said, I think noise, among all the issues that are raised by the neighbors, needs to be addressed in a couple of different ways. And so there's some things that we've been able to do, and I appreciate the way staff outlined the conditions of approval. I won't go through them, but I think you saw them today. They're very helpful to steer that discussion, but some commitments that we've been able to make. And I think the noise control measures that were identified in the noise study are things that we've expressed and be adopted through stipulations or through a letter of commitment. And I'll just kind of reference some of these real quick, but it's in the packet. For example, using an electric lift rather than a pneumatic lift. Putting the brake lathe inside, putting interior 6-foot high concrete masonry walls within and shielding the air compressor. All these operations occurring on the inside. The metal roll-up doors being closed for parts of the morning and to the greatest extent possible into the evening. Our hours of operation even being limited than what you could otherwise be permissible in a commercial district. So I can't say that I've been able to solve all concerns. And frankly, maybe I haven't been able to solve any of them. But I can say that with regard to the site design and the way it's been laid out in the best manner possible to have the greatest beneficial impact and the least negative influence. And with the noise study being prepared and the number of concessions that we've made, as well as the stipulations from staff, I think it's in a manner that's consistent with the architecture and design that you evaluate when considering a PDP. And the land use and the operations that are allowed today are part of the present zone that existed long before we came to this property. So with that, Councilmember Harris, I'd be happy to bring up the noise consultant if you thought that was helpful for further enlightenment, but he is here in the audience. Thank you. No.
All right. I have
Mayor. Can I ask-
Council Ely, I'm sorry, yes. Councilmember Stewart.
Mr. Ball, what are the hours for the location that they're proposing?
Hours of operation are 7 p.m. on the weekdays and 5 p.m. on Saturdays.
And what time do they start?
Okay, in the morning.
Here we go. Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. On Mondays through Fridays, Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, they are closed.
Okay. Mayor. Were you done, Councilmember Stewart? Okay. Councilmember Orlando.
So, Spock, how are you?
Very good.
Question for the earlier about the compressors. Why do we need a compressor if the commitment is to use electric?
Well, I don't know if I'll have all tools that will be electric. I think still with mechanics, there are some need for pneumatic tools, hence an air compressor.
Removing tires, for example? I don't know if I've ever seen an electric.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not everything I do today, I can't do anything in my own car anymore, so I don't even know what they're doing today. So you can't guarantee is what you're saying.
I can't commit to all electric.
So I have a question for City Attorney. We have a list of commitments here by a developer. How legally binding is that?
Mayor, if I may, Councilmember Orlando, if we attach it to the approval, it is enforceable. So fairness to say, if the council were to approve the PDP tonight and include the commitments by the developer, then it would be an enforceable part of the PDP.
Okay. Second, back to you, Mr. Dow. The residents indicated that there was an offer to extend the height of the south wall, which adjacently abuts the homeowner association. Have we had further discussion on that?
I don't think we've refined that, but I think we're open to the idea, subject to approval by planning staff.
Okay, so we would have to make that a condition as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd probably be best to have it as approved by planning staff so they can make sure it's in a manner that they're comfortable with regard to the overall architecture. But that is an architectural element that would be easy to make an accommodation.
Could you explain this, what you're asking, Councilmember Orlando?
That's very simple. The resident said to me that there has been an offer to be made that by your organization would raise the wall at least 8 feet.
Okay.
Excuse me, are we talking about the,
South
my
wall.
apologies.
South wall.
South wall. I thought you were referring to the building elevation.
No, south wall. I did say residence wall to the south, but that's okay.
Okay. Let me confer if that's
It's
okay.
my New Jersey accent, I guess it threw you.
I got the yes. So
Okay.
the only question I'll have to analyze is if it's an existing wall, I don't know if it's engineered to be an 8-foot wall. So sometimes you can add block onto a wall if it's structurally engineered to begin with, but if it's not, then you're tearing down an existing wall, which I'm not sure is the right answer to solve that problem. So I think if it's possible, we would pursue it.
Okay, that's fine. No, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Bowe? All right.
Thank you.
And I'll give you the opportunity to come back if there's some questions that need to be answered by the residents, et cetera. All right, I've got 8 cards here. Some come with, I think, your script as well, that I think I'm the only one that's received them. But we can make it was just handed to the city clerk, but we can make a copy and make sure that everyone has that. I'm going to give everyone 3 minutes. But if you find yourself saying the same thing, can you just say, I agree with them if you've got a separate concern, whether it's noise or this? I don't think it's helpful to reiterate the exact same words. So if you've got, you can certainly agree with them and let us know. We'll go from there. And I'm going to call you up on the way that they have been presented to me. First is Paul Uphill. So if you'd please come up and share your name and address. And I'd like to know, just for reference, when you share your address, where are you in proximity to this building? Are you?
Right across the street.
You can share that when you get up here, sir, when you give your address. But just, are you right across? Are you houses in? That's what I'm kind of looking for. And
No,
by the way, just share your name and address and the lights will kind of give you direction. You've got 30 seconds left when it turns yellow.
Oh.
And is that, all right, there we go.
okay, so my backyard,
Your name first, sir?
my name is Paul Uphill.
Thank you.
Okay.
And your address?
I'm a resident. Address is 1980 East Springfield Place.
Thank you.
My backyard faces the Circle K, which I'm very upset about that. It will also face the auto shop. There's way too much noise as it is. To solve this, they should just go somewhere else and put their building somewhere else because the noise is sometimes intolerable with all the traffic and motorcycles with open headers and race cars, you know, just hauling like it's like a drag strip right there. So, you know, I do not want a auto mechanic shop right across the street from me. I don't get any peace and quiet in my backyard as it is now. And the residents, we don't want it. So they need to go somewhere else. That's it. That's plain and simple, you know. You do all these noise studies. Well, how do you know if the shop's not even there yet? I mean, just, I'd like them to go somewhere else. We don't want an auto mechanic shop there, period. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Tim Merritt. And Tim, same thing, name and address for the record. If you could just tell us exactly, you know, in your words, where the house is comparative to this.
Good evening. Tim Merritt, 1950 East Springfield Place. And I'm a couple houses in directly across from where this proposed auto care facility would be going. Okay, so Mayor, council members, I'm here today to speak in opposition of the proposed auto repair shop, at the corner of Cooper and Pecos. I agree with with Paul that it's obviously not the right type of business to go in our neighborhood. With that said, I'd like to speak to the noise study analysis that was performed. The noise analysis was conducted due to concerns from the meeting the first meeting that was performed during the public meeting process. The study was performed on November 19th between 4:42 and 5:37, which is a Friday, okay, for not longer than 15 minutes at any location that they were at. The study points out that the ambient noise would not be much louder than what would be emitted from the car repair shop. The issue with this is that the study was performed at the loudest, busiest time of the day. What happens on Saturday morning when we're out in our backyards and Carrie's is opening at 7 a.m. It's quiet with minimal background noise, and we're trying to enjoy, again, our backyards. Or any time that there's less traffic on the road. The study states that the noise from the lifts, ratchets, impact drills, wrenches are distinctive and that the future noise could be audible, but when there are lulls in the background traffic noise, that the Carrie's Automotive shop has the potential to impact nearby properties. No matter how you look at it, it will add additional noise. No matter how you present it, it's still a car repair shop. With 500 homes surrounding this location, it's truly a nightmare scenario for us, for our community, and we deserve better. So my questions are, if this is approved, who will monitor the business to make sure that they follow through with the noise control measures? As we just saw, what things that were proposed, they're not quite sure that they're going to be able to follow through with all those items that they're talking about, which really concerns us, especially if this business didn't make it. You have hundreds of people who are opposed to this, and we're certainly not going to go there and get our car fixed, right? So if it doesn't make it, will the next business be able to do whatever they want, which is very concerning to us. They talked about the tools, rotary electric lifts, and so on. So we're hoping if for some reason this gets put through, that somebody's going to be able to monitor that. The other thing I'd like to point out.
Tim, can you wrap up, please? You're out of time. Can you wrap up your presentation?
I'll wrap it up. The other item I'd like to point out is that the representatives from this project has been misleading with the details of the project. At the planning and zoning meeting, I pointed out a discrepancy in the study, as the consultant listed 2 study dates, even though they were presenting the study was completed in 1 day.
Thank you, Tim. I think wrapping up is kind of in conclusion.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Frank Faria. Mr. Faria?
Mayor,
Councilmember Stewart.
can any of the other residents defer time? It seems like he had a presentation that he wanted to get through. Can any of the residents defer the time from their card?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to hear it as well. I'd like to hear the rest of it as well.
Sure. If others would like to defer, we can do that.
Hi, my name is Frank Faria. I live directly south of the shop. My home is right behind it, 2056 East Browning Place. We purchased it a couple of years ago, thinking we had a nice investment to go on. Now these houses are worth almost $700,000. Since when do you put an auto repair shop next to high-value homes? Would any of you buy my house for $700,000 with an auto shop behind it? I work still 40 and 50 hours a week. I'm 72 years old. I go to bed at 7 because I get up at 3. I work out at Intel. I do their electrical QA. I've been in construction almost all my life, and I know how many, I can't tell you how many repair shops I've been at where I never walked into one and said, wow, this is really quiet. Never. And I've been around a long time. I've even worked in auto repair shops. The hammering, the noise, the brake lays, the dust, the hazardous materials, that all has to be picked up at night after they're closed. They can't pick it up during working hours, in case you didn't know that. So that means while I'm asleep at night, I'll hear trucks backing up to that place to unload their hazardous, pick up their hazardous materials. This should not be put in a residential area. I just passed an auto shop on my way here, right around the corner, Rick's Auto Repair. He's in an industrial area. And that's where this carriage belongs, is in an industrial area. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And Tim, I think we'll let you come back at the end here, if that's okay. Let me get the other guy speaking first, and then we'll bring you back. Sorry for the confusion. Marie France Doyle? Sorry if I didn't quite get your name right, man. Name and address, and could you tell us where your house is too, please?
Sure. Marie-France Doyle. I live at 2140 East Flintlock Way. So I'm a little south and east. I'm actually not really close to where this is going to be. So to make hopefully a long story short, I disagree with having a car repair shop. My brother is a general contractor. He's an engineer by trade, and he does commercial and residential. I asked him, I even sent the photographs and stuff to him, and I know he can't be here because he's in Canada, but regardless, I asked him, so what do you think of this? You know, they're doing a good job trying to help us and make this as least annoying as possible. Because from what my understanding, it's pretty much like a done deal. It's like because it matches whatever was the site allows, because it matches this. Well, too bad, so sad for us. When I bought the home, we never thought that there were going to be that type of a business being put in. Never. It was never said to us that what was going to be here was just little shops, restaurants, whatever. Nothing like it's going an impact ranch. Everybody's gone and got their tire changed. You know how noisy that is. And I have never seen yet in Arizona a place where the uh, big door always stays closed. Even when it's operational needed, there's always a time where it's open. So my long story short is when I asked my brother, he said the only way to do certain things to have higher walls and their abatement walls that will help for the noise protection. You can have construction be made so that the sound dampening within the surface can be made to allow for less noise to actually transfer out if it is open. There's sound absorption material that can be done, and that is not exactly costly in comparison. I asked him, so what are we talking about? And he said, man, 10% of the normal cost. And that's if you normally build to a high standard. Well, I don't know what standard is considered normal here. I know that what it is in certain areas where the construction needs to be like stronger, there, you already have thicker walls to begin with, which because of different densities allows for the noise to be lower. So my, if I can conclude this way, is I think if we are forced to have this, maybe there should be some form of enforcement regarding how it is built to actually make sure that the dampening and the sound is as little as possible. And I do agree with the sound, with the sound study being done at, on a Friday night when it's the loudest you can ever think about it. It makes no sense to me. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I have Joseph D. Russo.
Yes, Joseph Russo, 1290 East Flintlock Way, 2090, that was my old address, 2090 East Flintlock Way. I'm south of the garage.
And Joseph, we do have that. We do have a copy of that. It's been given to
Yes.
each of us up here too. So
Misrepresenting the project to the public gives no sense of confidence in what the public is being told. A 8,400 square foot, 30-foot tall garage within 88 feet of homes is not a neighborhood garage, as claimed by the developer. This facility is a major automotive service center and is not appropriate for our neighborhood. The claim that the developer recently built two similar garages in comparable densely populated residential neighborhoods is false. The two examples cited at the February 2nd internet presentation as similar are located in large commercial areas. Discount Tire is in a highly commercial area. This is the back end of the facility across from a senior center. Big O Tire at the end of the commercial area where it's red circled is across from an 18-hole golf course. The two garages presented by, and this is the back end of the Big O Tire. The two garages presented by Simon CRE at the March 2nd zoning meeting, where they obtained comments from neighbors, failed to state that the garages in question were decade old and the neighbors knew of the existence of the garage when they purchased their homes. Tom's Garage in Chandler, claimed by the developer to be of no concern to the neighbors, has been at this location for 31 years. Has only 3 bays, 20 feet tall, and approximately 300 feet from the closest homes. The homes east of the area were built in 2003, are separated by an open green area and a canal. The homes in the west were built in 2016, are separated by a road and open green area. Across the way is a 36-hole golf course. No homes are within approximately 300 feet of this 31-year-old garage. If a neighborhood garage is to be built at Pecos and Cooper, it should be similar to Tom's garage with 3 bays and no more than 20 feet in order to blend in with the surroundings of our densely populated single-family residential neighborhood. Tom's is the only example provided by the developer that could possibly be considered a neighborhood garage in the middle of a residential neighborhood, but without significant buffer surrounding Tom's garage. Simon CRE did not find comparable examples. The following list identifies 63 automotive service garages throughout Chandler, all in major commercial areas and none with neighborhoods surrounding these garages. Every presentation by the developer has misled the public. All of the notes, all the noted misrepresentations can be viewed by pulling up the zoning meeting and the internet presentations because they were all recorded.
Thank you, Mr. Russo.
Never been done before and is based on false statements to the public.
Thank you, sir. Councilman.
Mr. Russo? You're the HOA, on the HOA board?
I am.
So,
Recently, I wasn't when this started.
well,
but
congratulations. Wait until you
Yeah.
go to your full meeting, then you really
Yeah.
feel the pain. Anyway, that's probably a job I never want to do. I'll do the same one any day. What are your thoughts about extending the wall with your neighbors?
Height of the wall?
Yeah, the height of the wall on the south side of the residential area, your HOA.
I mean, extending the wall obviously would be of benefit. The concern I have is the comparisons where they interviewed people who came back at the last meeting on March 21st. No, I'm sorry, the March 2nd. They said that they had 3 examples from individuals that were near a Kerry's garage in Phoenix and 3 examples from Tom's garage. In both those cases, that's great that they have those people to say they understand, they don't have a big issue. One person did have somewhat of an issue, but they bought the homes knowing the garages were already there. And the garages in both cases are significantly smaller in height and in number of bays.
Okay.
So there's no comparison. I just don't like when people try to convince you by snowing you that, we have these people that have lived near these and they don't have an issue.
So Joe, let me get back to the original question.
Yes.
You're kind of,
I'm sorry.
I heard, no, that's okay. I heard
Go ahead.
everything what you said here and we looked at it. My question to you and I know the property owner has to agree to this, are you guys okay with them extending the wall if feasible?
My issue is sized. This is an 8-bay. The example that I gave of the Town Fair tire, discount tire, that is only 6 bays. The examples they gave with neighbors were 5 bays and 3 bays.
Okay.
So, even there, no, I'm concerned about size. I think a 30-foot building, and a good portion of it will be 30 feet. It's not as though this is just a peak for decorations. This is going to be part of the building. It's going to stand out. The Circle K is only 17 feet tall. And the homes, they're probably about 17 feet tall at best.
Okay.
So you're going to have something that's going to tower twice the size of anything in the immediate area. So yes, a wall, assuming this does get done, yes, anything to mitigate the sound would be of benefit.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Russo.
That's a roundabout way, huh?
That's okay. I got it. I'm with you.
Okay.
Sir,
you, Mayor.
one other question too, so height is your concern too? I heard sound and height. So
Height and number of bays. And, again,
okay.
It's the
Sure.
size of the facility and the distance. We're talking 88 feet.
I understand.
No,
I'm just trying to
yeah.
articulate what I thought I heard you say.
Yeah,
So,
height is an issue as well.
thank you, sir. Next is Martha Russo. Mrs. Russo. I think you might know him. You guys seem to live in the same house.
I think so. I have some photos. I don't know how we can put them up. Is that- Oh, I'm sorry. Right there?
And there'll be a
Okay.
camera that'll come down and it'll put 'em up
Okay,
so you can flip
perfect.
through.
Again, state your name and address for the record.
Martha Russo, and it's 2090 East Flintlock Way. So we're in the Del Verde community. So I'm going to read this, and I'll do the best I can to read it within 3 minutes, okay? And I'd like to voice my concerns regarding the proposed construction of Carey's Automotive Service Center at the intersection of Cooper and Pecos. As a reference, I attended both internet presentations regarding the building of the service center, and the proposed garage was introduced to the surrounding neighbors, and I attended in person the meeting at the Planning and Zoning Commission on March 2nd. At the first internet meeting, the proposed facility was described as a, quote, neighborhood garage, which is a misnomer based on its size. I was not aware our neighborhood needed an 8-bay automotive service garage. It's bad enough that they put a Circle K and they shoved it on us in 2016, even though there's a Circle K exactly 1 mile away from there. At the meeting on March 2nd, Mr. Jason Morris indicated his client was aware that neighbors had concerns, or as he described it, an interest about the size and potential sound issues that might become a factor from building an 8,400 square foot garage with 8 bays. He believed that they had addressed those concerns by adding additional shrubbery and trees as a barrier for sound and some interior soundproofing for the building. The one door with the 8 bays supposedly will remain closed at all times unless cars are being brought in or out of the facility for the repairs. 12-hour workdays and 8 bays, you call me naive, but I believe that main door is going to be opening and closing a heck of a lot, or in the end, it will be staying open most of the time. Mr. Boris also advised that his company took a slightly different approach in trying to show us that this facility would be a wonderful neighborhood facility for us. His company went to neighbors of 2 different garages to find out their thoughts about living near an automotive service facility. He went to Tom's Garage, which is on Riggs Road. This one, I don't know if we can see it.
We can.
Can you see it?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
That is Tom's Garage. It's 3 bays. It was built 31 years ago. And it is the closest to the residence that is over across the canal, which is over 200, maybe 300 feet away from it. Okay. It's nice that Mr. Morris's company took statements from 3 residents over there, but their homes aren't anywhere near as close to the actual garage. And Tom's is certainly not located in a mainly residential area with over 500 homes surrounding it. It is basically in a commercially zoned area. So then we went over to Carey's Automotive Service Center, which is what he was discussing as another alternate that was the same. And it's on West Mariposa Street in Phoenix. It is a 3,055 square foot facility. It was built in 1962, and it is on 0.39 acres of land. Carey's took over a garage that was built in 1962. It appears to have 5 bays, and it's an automotive facility, and it has been one for over 60 years. And let's see if you can see, there it is. It's lovely. That's it. It's at the most height is 20 feet, okay? The garage borders a historic residential district on one side and is in fact next door to one residential single-family home. Oops, that's not it. Sorry. That's the home that it's next to. And the homeowner may be one of the residents that was referenced in his March 2nd presentation. However, I want to reiterate, this person bought this home in 2013, according to Redfin, and would have bought the house with the understanding that there was a garage with 5 bays right next door to it. Okay, so that was their choice. And as you can see from this other photo, that's on the other side of the Carey's garage. So that is a commercially zoned area. And I know I'm running out of time. But and it backs up to 7th Avenue, and 7th Avenue is very commercially, I mean, it's just totally commercial. And this whole area, I don't know if you can see the yellow that we've outlined, it's all commercial except for one little street that's residential. And this list is all commercial properties that are in that area. So that, what I want to say in conclusion is we're not comparing apples to apples here. We are looking at a proposed construction for the corner of Pecos and Cooper. There are 4 large residential single-family home developments and a professional office building at this intersection. Mr. Morris chose to leave out the northwest corner in his presentation, which is a very large development that just got put in. And on the northeast corner, there's another development set back just a little bit from there. An 8-bay, 8,400 foot full service automotive garage is not a neighborhood garage. It does not belong here.
Thank you, Martha.
Okay. So if we're to be subjected to having a neighborhood garage at this corner, I would hope that you would consider that the 2 Mr. Morris referenced, a 3-bay or a 5-bay, would be much more in kind with a neighborhood facility. Thank you.
Mark Ostrand? Mark, you're the one we're hoping is going to give back all the time that.
I will. I'm Mark Ostrand. I live at 2147 East Browning Place. I'm a little south and a little east, about an 1/8 mile as the crow flies from proposed garage. I'm going to kind of recap things here, and I'm going to be very brief because my neighborhood colleagues here have done a lot of talking and I think have brought a lot to the table. So I think the 3 or 4 issues that we're talking about really is downsizing this to a 3 or 4 or 5 bay, and I'm saying a 4-bay automotive service garage, reducing the height as much as we possibly can so it kind of blends in with our neighborhood. Noise mitigation, which they've done a pretty good job at doing it so far. We just want to make sure that that happens. And what I'm saying is in a year, let's take a look at this again and have that sound study and make sure that they are being accountable to us and the neighborhood. And then maybe the 4th thing is really this block wall that we're talking about. I think this 8-foot block wall really should be something that they put up, not add to the HOA. You really can't add 2 foot to another wall because then you don't know who's responsible if something does happen to it. So really it's an 8-foot wall that they put up and construct as part of their project. So with that said, I think that's
Thank you, sir.
pretty much it. Thank you.
Council, would you like Mr. Merritt to continue his conversation? Or Mr. Merritt, do you think we've covered all the points, or would you like to? Tim? Would you like another minute or 2 to finish up, or do you think all the points have been shared?
I'll just finish up with what I had to say.
Okay, take another minute or 2, sir.
Okay. So to recap, the other item that I'd like to point out is that the representatives for this project have been misleading with details. At the planning and zoning meeting, I pointed out a discrepancy in the sound study as the consultant listed 2 study dates that they had been out there. And that was important to us because we wanted a good study done to show if the noise was going to be impacting our neighborhood. As a rebuttal to my question about this, the representative for Carrie's Car Care stood up and said that that actually they had been out twice to do that, right? Which influences decision making from the committee. After the meeting, I reached out and tried to get more information to find out if that was really true. And when the consultant got back to me, they said that that was a mistake and they had only been out there once. And so when you're doing a sound study and you're out there for the busiest time of the day, which is, you know, in the evening, and you're only out there once, you're taking a snapshot, right? And we're saying that there's other times, there's other impacts that are going to impact us as neighbors. There's a lot of times when it's not that loud, of course, right? So I think words mean something here, right? And it influences decision making. And providing accurate information is important. It really is.
Thank you, sir. Why don't we call the applicant back up? and then any additional questions you have, and then we can discuss this amongst yourselves.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to participate in this process and to hear the feedback. I think I've written down 5 things that I heard that I thought needed some response and maybe an idea or two worth considering. I think the reason why there might have been a confusion on whether it was 1 or 2 visits because there was a typo in the noise study. The noise study was conducted on a Friday, an afternoon, at a time you'd think to be reasonably busy for a 2-hour period. And so we thought that was a fair time to do it versus weekday, early morning or a weekend. I thought Friday afternoon was an optimal time for that. That noise study is substantiated and is helpful for evaluating this case. The things that I've noted here are important. The gas station on this property just next to us is 32 feet tall. That's the parapet height. We are proposing 30 feet. But I certainly understand the desire for a reduction in that height if possible, and been able to consult with the developer on this, and I think we can bring that down to about 28 feet. So we'll be about 4 feet less tall than what is already precedent in that area. Another thing worth pointing out to Councilmember Orlando's comment and the letter of commitment, we have no problem agreeing to raise that wall if possible, and if the neighbors are agreeable to, working together, find a way to engineer it or rebuild those couple of lots there, we'll work with them on that too. It requires their, I think, willingness to allow it to happen, but from our side, that commitment remains, and we'll be happy to do that if there's willingness on that side. Regarding a comment about the noise and how is it policed, the city has a mechanism through code enforcement to respond to calls. I don't think that will be an issue once it's open and operating, but that would be a mechanism to enforce the things that we've said, such as the barrier enclosure of the air pump, air compressor, for example. I appreciate a comment that was made by Miss Alice. She said something that just occurred to me. The idea about noise absorption panels on the internal side of a building. I don't think that's been done before, but I think it's possible. And as I look at what that could be, you can have 1 inch up to 3-inch panels that depend on the thickness that you choose. It can either pick up a more narrow one, a higher frequency, or a wider one, a lower frequency. And I think to the extent possible, maybe there's a stipulation that's added to the zoning case that says the applicant shall install noise absorption panels on the inside of the building prior to certificate of occupancy. And that way it would be an additional measure to make sure that where possible, we add some of those things on the inside. The truth of the matter is we want, this isn't a neighborhood service. Funny enough, I know they might not see it that way, but this will serve the folks who live in that immediate area. They will be customers. And the ability to be in a commercial zoned area that already allows this type of use with the building oriented in a way away from them with some of these additional measures that we proposed tonight, I think can help get this in a manner that's acceptable and long-term successful. And so for that, I propose those ideas and be happy to take any questions that you may have.
I have one question. So I noticed in a lot of the pictures, and there's a Discount Tire, for example, fairly close to my house, not near this close, so I'm not making that comparison, but there's a whole row of open doors. And where I go to another place where I take my car to, again, the style there is about 6 or 8 car bays where they drive them in and out. And this seems to have a single bay, a single door, and then the cars go in. How, is there any study comparisons just between, it's to an uninformed person like me, it would seem that your noise is somewhat contained if you've got one door pointing one direction as opposed to 5 or 6 doors, even if they were pointing the same direction. Can anyone address that for me?
Make sure you state your name for that.
If you could state your name and address, sir.
I'm Robert Wu. I'm the principal consultant of the acoustics group. I'm the author of the noise study, and I've been preparing noise studies for about 35 years. I'm here to answer your questions. With respect to your question, this design with a single door is much quieter than if you're going to have a multiple door facility. the height of the building plays a key part in why the noise levels are actually very low. And let me give you an analogy. Everyone has a television or a radio at home. If you were to put a small book in front of the speaker and step back, you wouldn't hear very much of a change in the sound level because the speaker and the book are relatively the same size. But if you put a large panel in front of the speaker, the sound level goes down. So especially for those homes located south of this project, the height of the building actually goes a long ways towards reducing noise in the southern direction. The height, the ceiling of the internal service bay actually plays a role in containing and absorbing noise within the space. So if you have a shorter ceiling inside the service bay, sound is more apt to reflect off the ceiling and go out through the door. By having a higher ceiling, and if you're adding some absorptive material, it actually goes a long ways towards reducing that noise.
Okay,
Sir.
thank you. Any,
Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando?
Mr. Val represents some kind of a dampening material. What are your thoughts on that? What would that do to the actual noise level? And give me a little more detail on the concept of that.
Well, it's like adding feathers or soft material to a space. So such as the way your panels are angled on the ceiling above and the carpeting here, it absorbs the direct field of sound that's bouncing around. So it does make a benefit. It helps to reduce the noise.
And what would you propose to do this? What exactly specifically you're proposing to do?
Well,
dampening the sound.
there are multiple commercial products available, and we can recommend a minimum square footage of absorptive material to absorb sound within the ceiling of the garage.
How about the walls, things like that? Would that be something suitable for that as well?
It can be done as long as it doesn't affect maintenance, because inside a surface garage, you have to hose things down. You get water that's occasionally being splashed. It has to meet the fire code as well. So there's numerous other requirements that have to be satisfied. So ideally, yeah, you can put it all over the place, but to function, it has to be to the ceiling and a certain height down from the ceiling.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions?
So
for
Mayor,
us on this?
real quick, just so we understand the enforcement mechanism, not for you, sir. Thank you. They're not for you, sir. You're not,
Thank you,
unless
Mr.
you're gonna enforce this issue. Oh, no, I'm kidding. City manager, we had like I said, Mr. Bao said, we have a process for enforcing this. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Orlando, the enforcement process tends to start with a complaint basis, as you're well aware. So obviously, from a construction standpoint, as this is going up, if there are conditions or stipulations that are adopted by council, we would certainly make sure during the construction process that those are enforced if they were part of the PDP approved. Beyond that, we would wait for there to be, after final inspection, if there was a complaint, we would go and investigate and compare that to the PDP that was approved. And if it was not in compliance, we would go through the proper enforcement process until that issue is either mitigated or whatever disposition happened through the legal system.
Thank you.
City Attorney, I have a question for you, and or it might be Christine too. So obviously, a lot of the concerns, complaints of our, and by the way, Janine, I apologize. I'll invite you to come up and have your say still. It got lost in there, and I apologize. A lot of the concern is use on this. From the very first gentleman to everyone else, it was use. Our consideration is not use. Is that correct? It's by right in there. So give us some direction related to that question.
Absolutely, Mayor, if I may. As you all know, the uses on land are governed by our zoning code. And that code has been set up that in certain districts, we allow uses by right. This is a use allowed by right, meaning this property has the right to have a car care facility, a garage on it. how it's designed and everything is what is part of the PDP, which is what the council is considering tonight. But legally, the decision regarding the use was made many years ago through the approval of the zoning on the property. And as you know, in Arizona, we have strong property interest laws, meaning as a property owner, the laws are intended to protect what my property what I can do on my property. So if the city were to take the stance of we're not going to allow a use that's already been allowed, the city could be subject to liability for that decision.
Okay. So the second part, again, I mean, just so it was, since this was approved and the state has not rescinded or given cities the ability to change the use of something once it's approved. And we've seen that in a few other cases recently. So really then we're talking about the PDP with design and some of the elements that are in question here. Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, Council, I do have one more speaker to come up that we can discuss, and then what would you prefer?
Oh, let's let the speaker.
Yeah. Janine, come on up, and can I give you 3 minutes, state your name and address? And you've heard everything else.
Thank you so much. My name is Janine Dinges, and I live at 1960 East Springfield Place, and that's directly west of where this property would be constructed. Thank you so much. This corner already has a significant issue that isn't being addressed by the city. Since rezoning and construction of Circle K, residents in the area have absorbed a burden that will only increase with the construction of Carey's. I understand that they did a sound study, however, I don't feel it was sufficient. Currently, the residents suffer 24/7 with more people passing through the area who normally wouldn't, and there is increased drag racing up and down Cooper. Their sound study appears to be inconsistent with what we experience morning, midday, and evening. The sound for our neighborhood is already rated high. The hours listed are long, including on Saturdays. I anticipate more cars running through our neighborhood to test drive vehicles on quiet roads. I fear we will never have a moment of calm in our neighborhoods. I also am concerned about the look. Like Mr. Russo pointed out, it just doesn't fit. A two-car type of business on that corner makes the area look cheaper to me as well. As a small business owner in Chandler, my goal is not to diminish another company's desire to increase their customer base. However, this business is wrong for the area and wrong for the residents. The type of work that they do will increase the noise that will go against the city's own code of ordinance 11-10.1 for neighborhood preservation. This code specifically prohibits noises such as vehicles accelerating or decelerating, horns, other signaling devices, noise from exhaust systems, revving of engines, and I quote from the code, noise or music which disturbs the peace or quiet of any neighborhood or which causes discomfort or annoyance to any reasonable person of normal sensitiveness residing or working in the area. What kind of vendors will they have coming and going? I know that Snap-on tools sell to the mechanics, and they tend to leave their trucks running and idle for a long time. The decision to grant construction will continue to decrease the quality of life for the residents. With the rezoning, it changed overnight. I don't accept the suggestion from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that I attended in March that, and I paraphrase this, that with increased population, we must accept the noise will increase. I don't accept that. A more passive type of business would be more in line with the expectations of the residents. What's unfortunate is that residents already dislike Carey's because of this proposal. That's sad. As a business owner, that's sad. And I am not concerned with the people who own the property and want this to go through. They don't live here in this neighborhood. They should have conducted a more comprehensive investigation about the area and what would be acceptable to the inhabitants. As I know too well, there is always a cost of doing business. If this is granted, I would request more mitigation like it's been brought up. Smaller footprint, less bays, reduced operating hours, more foliage, trees, bushes towards the west of the property, including fast-growing trees like cissos. It is off-site, but where I live in Canyon Oaks, the exterior wall that's right there by Cooper, sorry.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me do that.
Mayor.
Councilmember Ellis, then Councilmember Harris.
City Manager. We talked about enforcement, and you really explain it. We have a process. It's already part of the city's code. That's how we do business here in the city of Chandler. City Attorney, you already explained to us at this point, the city of Chandler, as we sit here to represent, we cannot say no to this project based on the land use. But what we can do is work with the landowner or the present business to make it in a way that the quality of life of those who are around that business will be as best as possible. Is that correct?
Mayor, if I may, Councilmember Ellis, that is the purpose of the PDP, is to design the business, the access and everything in a way that is, fits within in the area, yes.
Tonight, I've heard some of the residents say they don't want it there. They just want it to go somewhere else. Is that something in our power? And is it feasible for the city, as us representing the city, to sit here tonight and tell them, yes, you have the right to say you don't want it there?
Mayor, if I may, Councilmember Ellis, again, this is a use by right from the zoning that was put on this property a number of years ago. And to deny this use could subject the city to liability.
Thank you.
Mayor. Yes. Thank you, Councilwoman Ellis. So just to stay consistent, and this decision was made before council was here. Before I was here. Yeah. Before I was born. Check the dates. I'm kind of young, but
Mayor, Councilmember Harris, I'm not sure when the zoning, I don't have it pulled up, 2016, so it was before you were on council, yes, sir.
okay. And then my next question is, when you say the city is subject to liability, what does that mean? Does that mean, put it in layman terms so everyone can we can really understand, what does subject to liability means?
The property owner could file a lawsuit against the city for damages.
All right. So my next question is this. If we, in terms of the noise, well, this is actually for a city manager now. City manager, some of some of the constituents' concerns was rapid car movement, loud vehicle noise, traffic. Is it possible that we can look at doing a study, or is this in our plan to do a possible study and look at some calming measures for the traffic, so our constituents can feel more safe while moving throughout that area?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Harris, we would certainly be happy to look at the general traffic patterns in the area and provide you with that information. These are two major arterial streets that this project fronts on, and so traffic calming in that area would be atypical. I'm not sure what that would look like because those are designed to be throughways, the major road network throughout our city. If it was in the neighborhood, it would be a little bit different story. In terms of the enforcement side, the first part of your question, again, that has to be considered sort of separate from the project and the use question that's already been decided and the PDP that's before you tonight. If there are existing traffic issues or traffic issues that may arrive at some future date because of whatever reason, we can certainly work through the police department to see if there's additional patrols or traffic enforcement needed in that area, depending on what the results are and what the complaints from the surrounding neighborhood may be.
And then my next question was to the city attorney in terms of in terms of, well, actually, this is probably more, I might have to go back to the city manager in terms of materials of the building being built. If we were to say, hey, we want a little bit more installation, I kind of understand about studios. I've been in that industry and things like that. But if we was to say that we wanted this more installation, we wanted that wall to be 8 feet, the wall to have some noise proofing and things of that nature. Could we possibly ask for that to happen and not be out of?
Yes.
Thank y'all. I'm trying to build my case. That's okay. All right. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
The reason why I specifically re-asked that only because of the fact that there was concerns that there could be more that could delay the project based on the materials, and I wanted to better understand, is that something that we can push forward and do? Okay.
Councilmember Orlando.
Mayor, I have a quick question for the applicant. All right. It's been a long day, sir. So let's get to the last question here, at least.
We're not finished.
Yeah, we're not finished. I'm flat rate anyway. We're all flat rate up here, so we could go. You're the question for you.
Yes.
Or the applicant. Once a vehicle has been repaired, where are they going to drive it? Because I know the neighbors were concerned about driving in their neighborhoods.
There's no test running of the vehicle. You don't drive it around. You repair it and you park it in the parking lot of the center until the owner comes and picks it up and drives it home.
Are you sure about that? Because you have to test a car. I mean, if someone comes in with an air conditioning being broke, don't you take it out on the road to make sure it's working?
If you need to drive it, you would presumably drive it on an arterial street. You don't test drive through a residential neighborhood. See if the car works. I mean, these are professional mechanics that prepare things in a highly optimized way. It's not a guessing game if it works or it doesn't work. So if you have to drive it, you drive it on the arterial street and bring it back and park it in your bay. But there's no need to drive it through a residential neighborhood.
Okay, so is that a Kerry commitment?
Absolutely.
All right. So Mayor, with that, and with all the discussion tonight, I move that we approve the preliminary development plan, PLH 21-0071, Kerry's Car Care. We have a preliminary development plan for the on-site building architecture located south to southeast corner of Cooper Pecos Road, subject to the conditions recommended by planning and zoning. In addition, to go into the record, subject conditions that the Kerry Car Care commitment letter will be enforceable as a condition. Number two, work with the HOA, the property owner, to put up an 8-foot wall on the south side abutting that facility. Work on a 28-foot maximum height. Work with dampening the inside of the building with absorption panels as much as possible, definitely the ceiling, but as much as possible the walls, obviously without interfering with any fire or hazard safety issues. Number 6, excuse me, 1, 2, 4, 5. Provide a phone number for the residents to call when this is during construction as well as operational, so they have someone that they could call to express any concerns. And final one is I heard a little bit more of foliage on the west side of the property. With that, I move to approve it.
Is there a second?
I second it, Mayor.
Okay. Are those stipulations amenable to the applicant?
Yeah, I think between staff and legal, we can find a way to word them properly, but the overall intent, spirit of it, we can make it work.
And the other commitment is you will not drive it through the neighbor's residence.
You already got a second there, man. Sorry about that.
I
All right.
You're a gentleman. I know you'll accept that.
All right, council, any comments before we vote?
Mayor, would it be
Councilmember
out of order to ask for the stipulation for the 1-year study that we had mentioned? I think one of the neighbors had mentioned they'd like a 1-year study.
Tell me exactly what that means again in this situation, and I'm looking to the city attorney.
Looking to the city attorney as well.
I think what they mentioned was a stipulation for a year to try it out and see how everything's going. That's what I heard.
Mayor, if I may jump in on that one, that would be a difficult one to enforce. And the reason being, a study could be done, but they have a right to operate the business. We have a lot of stipulations on noise mitigation, on the concealing, which we have clear direction on how to enforce that. I think the challenge with having a noise study done in a year is what we would actually do with that. That, however, does not preclude potential enforcement if they're not complying with the requirements of our city ordinances. And if there are disturbances of the neighborhood that are excessive, we already have those enforcement mechanisms in place.
So in effect, the phone numbers and the noise complaints, if they do come forward, will be the mechanism of which we can take action if we need to, based on the stipulations that Councilmember Orlando laid out.
Mayor, if I may, Councilmember Stewart, that is correct.
Thank you.
All right. Council, are we ready to vote? So please vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you, council. Thank
Mayor?
you, neighbors.
Yeah.
Thank you, applicant. Council, next on our agenda is the second public hearing, item number 52. I'd like to open our public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. We're gonna have them put the presentation up there. So tonight, Mayor and Council, tonight is the second public hearing for the proposed local alternative expenditure limitation called Home Rule Option for Chandler. And in just a moment, on June 3rd, 1980, the state of Arizona placed a new expenditure limitation on cities and towns. The Arizona Constitution sets a maximum spending limit based upon a formula incorporating expenditures in the fiscal year 1979-80, adjusted for annual increases in population and inflation. The formula also allows for some expenditure exclusions.
You have the clicker?
I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Okay, so I just covered this one. The next area is the Constitution also provides several alternatives to the state-imposed spending limitations. A one-time override, a local expenditure limitation, home rule, which is the one that City of Chandler has used, and a permanent adjustment of the base limit. Chandler has always opted for the local expenditure limitation home rule option. Residents' approval of home rule gives the City Council the authority to make its budget decisions based upon revenues available and services and amenities desired by the citizens of Chandler, rather than being held to a state formula based on a 1980 budget. Chandler voters have approved the home rule option 10 consecutive times since 1982, most recently in August 2018. The approval is good for 4 budget years, so the 2018 approval of home rule covers us through the upcoming fiscal year 2022-23 budget. The next home rule would then start with the FY or fiscal year 2023-24 budget. 2 public hearings are required, so tonight is the last of those hearings. Following that, tonight's public hearing, Council will be asked to vote on a resolution to place home rule on the primary ballot for August 2nd. The Council vote requires a 2/3 majority to approve the resolution and put the item on the ballot. If and when placed on the ballot, it needs a majority of those voting to pass. The preliminary financial implications of operating without home rule are shown here. The state computed limit takes the 1978 population and the 1980 budget and applies a formula for population growth and inflation to come up with a comparable budget of about $298 million. In addition to the base amount, cities are allowed to spend bond proceeds, interest income, federal grants, and some other revenues which do not count against the spending limit and make the amount that can be spent higher, bringing the total state maximum to about $538 million. This compares to the city's anticipated fiscal year 2023-24 expenditures of about $754 million. Therefore, the preliminary projected amount over the state limit is about $216 million. Without approval of the home rule option, the city would need to reduce budgeted expenses by this amount. If the city were to not go forward with home rule, we don't know exactly which programs or services would be impacted, but some of the types of things that might be impacted are shown here. Of course, none of this would happen without working through a full process with the city manager, mayor, and council. It is important to note that the home rule does not increase taxes. Without home rule, revenue will continue to be received by the city, but it would not be able to be spent based on a state-imposed expenditure limit. Lastly, this slide shows an abbreviated version of the home rule election schedule. There are actually many more administrative steps to this process, but I've boiled it down to the key dates shown here. Tonight, a special meeting will take place presenting a resolution for adoption. The following Monday, April 4th, we send off the financial worksheets to the State Auditor General. The argument filing period is April 4th through May 4th. During May, we will be working with City Clerk to prepare the voting pamphlet, and these pamphlets would go out to citizens June 28th after approval by the Auditor General. Then we end with the actual ballot item on the primary election ballot on August 2nd. That concludes the public hearing presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director Dawn. Is council, any discussion, questions or comments? Seeing none, is there any discussion from the audience? All right, with that, I'd like to close our public hearing. And council, we're going to have this second council meeting, and we'll do our council announcements at that point.
Mayor, there are 2 unscheduled public
Oh,
appearances.
thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that. I ungavel myself. I'd asked her to please remind me at the end of this. So we do have 2 unscheduled public appearances. And first out, just in the order in front of me, Greg Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer, you have 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record, sir.
Hello, my name is Greg Shaver. I live at 780 North Bradley Drive, Chandler, Arizona, and I am not anywhere involved with the garage. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to applaud the fact that the city has gone through our neighborhood and all the little residential signs that says like Bradley or Ivanhoe or whatever have been replaced with new ones. We were traveling in another city and you literally had to get out of your car and walk up to the sign to read them because they were so faded. They really were terrible. I was also mentioning to my wife as we were driving around about the West Chandler signs that you're putting up, and she had a little different outlook on this than I did. My wife is a retired attorney for Maricopa County, and when she looked at that, she said, "Oh my goodness, they installed the key." Her comment was, "The signs like a gang name claimed West Chandler." I'm like, "Oh my." Oh, okay. So as we turn north from Chandler Boulevard onto World Road, she looked at the second street pole and she looked at it and says, "Oh my goodness, that looks so nasty." I provided you with a couple pictures here. I was told that you would be delivered to you. I assume you have had a chance to look at these. Anyhow, they look pretty bad. They really do. The neighborhood is about 30 years old and it's starting to age and it's starting to look pretty bad. And if you're trying to promote West Chandler as a place where people want to invest money, you want to make it look good. This does not look good. So you've done an excellent job in taking the little residential signs and getting them straightened out. But this is something else that needs to be taken care of. One of the other things that I noticed when I was taking my dogs for a walk around the neighborhood is that one of these residential signs were on a stop sign, and we were windy about a week ago. It literally blew the stop sign over. It had rusted out at the base. And so we're getting into an area here where you have a neighborhood that needs some time and money put any of these street things need to be, poles need to be painted or they need to be replaced. When I surveyed all the poles from Ray Road to Chandler on the roll, there were 30 of them. 25 looked poor to dismal. 5 were brand new poles. They looked really good. But this is something that really needs to be done. I appreciate your help in addressing this. You've done a good job with the little residential signs. I'd appreciate your help in taking care of this issue.
Yeah, Mr. Chafee, unfortunately, we cannot engage with you right now
Right.
because unscheduled, but if you'll make sure that our city gets these comments, we will certainly look into the stoplight, the signs, and
The stop sign was taken care of quickly.
great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up for unscheduled public appearance, I have Ann Kitsura. And similar, sir, unscheduled public appearance, we cannot engage with you, but you have 3 minutes to share what you will.
Perfect. My name is Ankit Sura. I'm a resident of 850 West Oriole Way. And
Can, City Clerk, can we get the clock reset, please? Thank you. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Appreciate for that extra time. So the purpose of the presentation is just to seed ideas with the council members over here and stimulate some thoughts for future possibilities. And just for a full disclaimer, I am presenting myself as a proud resident since 2013 of Chandler City and not as a representative in any capacity of my employer. So just to be clear, and I don't have authority to do that. So my presentation is about innovation, health innovation, and that's what I will be talking about. And I did present a folder over here for all of you to have a look at it. And the first one is just starting with the flyer, Health for All, an unrealized vision, a global vision that the world started on in 1981, but hasn't been realized. It was supposed to be realized in 2000, but we never realized it. That was Health for All. In 2009, we had an opportunity. America took its first step in that direction with Health Innovation Zone Pilot Act, but it never went out of Congress. So that's unfortunate for America, but it has something very interesting in it. HIZ design plan requirements, Health Innovation Zone design plan requirements. So it's a great document for us to just ponder over how do we bring it not down, like what do you say, up to down, but down up. So ground up innovation. So similarly in 2011, America presented first ever national prevention strategy document. This is the first ever document that was published by America, National Prevention Strategy. A great document, 125 pages. Please have a look at it. So that stimulates further ideas. I've just given 4 pages in there. And this is CVS Health Zone Initiative. That is 2022 when they announced it. And it is in Phoenix where they're going to pour in billions of, like millions of dollars, and billions is what is envisioned by this Fortune 500 as a social responsibility in Phoenix, Arizona, 85040 zip code. How do we bring that money over here? That's a question to ponder over. And then last one of them is donut economics. Donut economics, if people are not familiar with it, Kate Roberts, a different way of thinking about economics, alternative economics, and how do we, as an entity working with market, a community entity working with market, how do we make them adopt donut economics in their working? Because their market, they just want to make money, bottom line. How do we enforce this as a community? And while being in the state, like state is the federal, representing ideas like HIPAA and all those other things, how do we comply with those? So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Wow, your timing is amazing. Thank you, Mr. Sura.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure city manager, we look at this, a second look at it.
Yes. All right, with that, I'll close our meeting. And now, good evening. Welcome to our special meeting. And at this particular meeting, we have one action item and then current events. The action is the resolution related to home rule. Council.
Would you like me to do
Mayor.
a roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm tired. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hartke.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Ellis,
Still here.
Councilmember Orlando.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Apologize, council. Again, there is one action item. Council, what is your wish?
Mayor,
Councilmember Stewart.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 5570, recommending the continuation of the local alternative expenditure limitation home rule option.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Rowe.
Third.
Council, any questions or comments before we vote? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilmember Lopez, Councilmember.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Announcements. We've got a few. First of all, having to do with fireworks, last week Governor Ducey signed a bill into law that allows municipalities to prohibit the use of permissible consumer fireworks between certain late evenings to early morning hours. I'm grateful for Senator J.D. Mesnard's work on this quality of life issue, and I'm now asking staff to begin working on implementing the law as soon as it becomes effective. There's a 90-day period in there, but so it means that we will probably not be able to employ this certainly by Memorial Day, probably not by, because session's not over by 4th of July, but certainly by the end of the year. Thank you, staff. Secondly, I want to invite you all to join me on April 2nd, which will be the Chandler Fire Department will be hosting their annual fire walk. The event begins at Galveston Elementary, located at 661 East Galveston Street on Saturday, April 2nd at 8 a.m. and conclude at noon. Wear cool clothes and walking shoes. Special thank you to the Arizona Burn Foundation for supplying the necessary tools, training, and alarm. And thirdly, April 1st and 2nd is our Jazz Festival. And the two-day festival hosts a stellar lineup of local talent spanning genres ranging from traditional and fusion rhythm to smooth jazz. You can find more about this on our website. And last but not least, Chandler Family Bike Ride. Join us as we take a leisurely bike ride along the scenic Paseo Trail during the annual Chandler Family Bike Ride on Saturday, April 9th. You can register on our website. I think we start riding at 9, but there will be refreshments. And I think it is 9, I think, but you can show up earlier and hang out with some cool people like Councilmember Ellis. Councilmember Harris.
Thanks, Mayor. I do not have any announcements.
Be still. Councilmember Rowe.
Well, thank you, Mayor. The first thing I want to say is that while these folks that went out of here today may not have been pleased with our decision, I commend them for going and being active in our community and trying to make the best Chandler. And so, and anytime folks do that, this gentleman here came and talked to us today about an idea that matters to him. And so to all of you people, anybody in Chandler that comes and engages, thank you for doing that. You're paying attention, you care about Chandler, that's awesome. And then the other thing I want to say is to our public safety professionals, thank you all for your continuous work, night and day, 7 days a week. And Team Chandler, we love you for that. And lastly, a big thanks and congratulations to Terry Kimball and the Chandler Chamber. They finished their Ostrich Festival, and it was a marathon. I'm not sure that they may like the result. I'm not sure they're going to want to do it for 10 days next year, but who knows? But to you, to your staff, to your board, all of the volunteers that helped you this year, and it's kind of helping the chamber get back in the groove from a couple of COVID years. So congratulations and thank you for being always involved with the city. Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, hats off to the chamber and to Steve Levine Entertainment. And that was quite a party that y'all threw. I think the entire East Valley, heck, the entire city of Phoenix was here, so it was fantastic. But I've got about 6 items I want to cover, and I'm just kidding. Nothing for me tonight. We'll move along.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. It's tax season for us. Who does not like to have taxes done? Well, for the residents in Chandler, we have volunteer income tax assistant, which is VITA program, that will be available for them. They are ready to help our residents file their taxes. The city is partnering with Mesa United Way to offer assistance at several East Valley locations in Chandler and Mesa that are now operating through Thursday, April 14. It's a free service. You can sign up online, so please be proactive, get sign up, and get some help. The tax needs to be done. Thank you.
The tax man cometh.
The tax man is coming. All
Councilmember Orlando.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, but just remind me to get my taxes done. Thank you.
All right. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just very briefly, thank you for treating Tad so well on Monday when I was out. Appreciate the opportunity to be away with my kids on spring break. Also, although you got to spend plenty of time with him on Monday, I did want to formally introduce and welcome John Sefton, who is our new community services director. This is his first week of council meetings back in Chandler. So just wanted to thank him for being here and welcome him to our team. That's all tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, council, we still have the ending portions of our budget workshop in the exec room. With that, one item.